All right, everybody, welcome back to the Rough Draft Podcast. Matt Genatino live from Florida, not Long Island for once. And Andy Pryles, I won't make the mistake this time and say Maryland, Massachusetts, Babson College. He's live. Welcome back.
How are we, everybody? What a wonderful episode we got planned for you.
And you got a mic finally. Had some technical issues last time with the sound.
Yeah, I got it, Mike. I look like a 12-year-old playing Xbox, but hey, if it helps with the sound, that's all we need.
It's all about the content. So if we get good content rolling out, as long as we can hear you, it works out well. So let's start off with this is our sixth episode now. We've been kind of touching on some positions and stuff like that, and we're getting near the end here. We're getting 3 weeks, I believe. 3 weeks this week will be the day of the draft. 3 weeks from Thursday, excuse me. And it's an exciting time, and we're getting down to the wire. I think we're going to do little cornerbacks today, which is pretty deep.
Awesome. Deep class, ton of talent. Gonna be great.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think this is a position along with the tight ends where if you need those two positions, you could get some quality talent on that side of the offense is on the tight end, and then on the side of the defense, you get the cornerback position. So it's a lot to look forward to if you need that position. So with that said, Andy, do you have anything you want to say on this class at all?
Just an interesting aspect is there's plenty of tall corners, which usually you can't really find height. But you got Kevin King, Humphreys, pretty big, Tankersley, Akel Witherspoon. A lot of tall, rangy corners on the outside.
Yep, I think that's a great point, and I think a lot of times also a lot of guys want to get moved. They don't want to get moved, but they end up moving to corner. Excuse me, to safety from corner. But I think it's very seldom that you find a really good guy who was converted from corner to safety and who succeeds. I mean, right off the bat, you think of Charles Woodson. Tyrann Mathieu is another guy.
We're talking corner to safety, right?
Corner. He played a little corner, I believe, at LSU, right?
Yeah, then obviously McCourty.
Yep.
Drafted his corner.
Yep.
Moved.
But and then but other than that, there's not many guys who can do it and then do it well.
Definitely. It's tough.
So yeah, it is, and I think a lot of guys like a lot of times like Kevin King. He's the kind of guy that I think some people have shown interest in at safety possibly. But again, it reminds me of the conversation we've had with the offensive tackles, moving him into guard. It's very tough to make that transition. I think it's easier said than done. So something to keep an eye out with these guys moving forward. And then of course I think on the flip side of that, in the cornerback spot is an undersized corner, and a lot of times they want to move guys into the nickel spot.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of corners, it's tough to excel in the nickel because it's all about agility, three cone and such. But there's a few corners in this class undersized that can fit that bill.
Right, and I think of an inside corner that makes a good one from a bad one, really, I think to me is being able to make tackles. The ability to make tackles over the middle, not be afraid of contact because you're going over the middle just as much as you had that conversation with a slot receiver. Can he go over the middle, worry about getting hit? Same thing I think goes for the slot corner. Can he make a tackle against a shiftier guy? That's either hit or miss, and then that becomes either an 80-yard touchdown or, a game-saving tackle, for argument's sake. So definitely something to look at when you put guys in the slot too. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on. We'll do our rankings, and then we'll do some guys that we think are sleepers, X factors, stuff like that. Keep an eye on, maybe some busts we want to talk about. Real quick, I want to discuss Sidney Jones, who unfortunately got hurt at his pro day and tore his Achilles. Definitely an unfortunate thing. He was most likely, I'd say, a surefire first round pick. Safe to say with him.
Easily cornerback 2 off the board. Probably go to Eagles at 14.
So it's a tough situation with him. We'll definitely mention him. I don't have him in my top five only because of the injury, but I would have if he didn't get injured. I don't know, but how's that for you, Andy? Same, or did you leave him?
Yeah, I've been going back and forth. I think it's tough, but I think I would still take him in the late second round. He's probably a third round pick at this point, but the deep contending teams that can afford to wait on him, maybe I read he's going to play this year. So if you can wait till like week 12 after the pup, who knows?
Right. Like for a team, like you said, like a later contending team, like for me, of course I'll say because I'm a Giants fan, but the Giants, you got DRC coming off the books next year. He's getting older, and you got two stud corners in Jenkins and Apple, of course, behind him. It wouldn't be a bad guy, honestly, to go get in the third round, especially if everything checks out medically. Maybe even if he doesn't play this year, but he'll be 110% for next year and the years prior, seeding that. That would be great. So teams like that, keep an eye on. I think even maybe a team to watch too for him could be the Steelers later on, but yeah, we'll see. So all right, you want to start it up the ratings?
Let's start it up.
All right.
About a top 7 prospect. I got him probably 7th overall. Marshawn Lattimore, cornerback, Ohio State. His whole thing is he has rare recovery speed. If he's getting beat, he just has the acceleration, athleticism to get there. Fluid hips, change of direction. Projects as a shutdown corner. He's not as technically sound as his teammate Conley, but he has the highest upside in this draft. He's not a perfect prospect by any means, as sometimes you can get beat on double moves and stuff like that, but he's definitely a high talent prospect, and he'd be a good fit on the Jets, Titans in that range.
Yeah, I think I have Lattimore as well. I really like him. I like the way he stays with receivers. And then, again, like you said, when he gets beat, he has really good recovery speed, really good instincts. He can catch. I like him a little bit more as a prospect compared to like an Eli Apple. And I even like Garyon Conley compared to Eli Apple from last year because, he's not as grabby. He really does a great job of staying with the receiver. I really like the Ohio State corners. They're like the press man corner. Of course, the system that we run at the Giants is that kind of man on man. So I tend to like those corners because that's what we play. So I like Lattimore. I think he's a high end prospect. Honestly, he's top. It's hard to say. I don't want to say top 5 lock, but he's a top 10 lock in my eyes. Definitely CB1 off the board for me.
So. Yeah, who's your comparison? I see him similar to Talib. He doesn't have Patrick Peterson's athleticism, but some type of press corner like that, tall.
Yeah, I'd say Talib is a good one. And I don't. It's hard because it's tough with him. I would say Talib would be the closest thing that you would compare him to, especially like the size factor, and I think the physicality plays a role as well because Talib is pretty physical, as we know. So yeah, I'd be comfortable with saying that for sure.
Definitely, and then number 2 corner is definitely one of my harder takes in the draft is Desmond King. A lot of people have him at safety, but when I watched, he had the most impressive instincts of any corner in this class. His back pedal was really quick, and he brings the physicality of a safety at the position, wants to hit people, wants to tackle, wants to make big plays.
Right.
Captain, change direction. His negatives, obviously, he's probably a shade above or under 5'10", and his average speed. And I know people think he can't play man coverage, but the limited times he did play it at Iowa, I was definitely impressed. And I compare him to like a Logan Ryan, but higher upside. And I think for a team like the Steelers, it'd be an awesome pick, especially in that zone scheme. So that's my number 2.
Wow. And a lot of people have brought him over to the safety position, and this is one of those guys that everyone says, well, we'll just put him over to safety. And I think Des King, he won the cornerback of the year award last year, did he not?
I believe 2 years
Or
ago he had
best,
eight
was it best
interceptions.
DB or was it best like corner?
I think it was best defensive back. I'm
Okay,
not positive.
interesting. All right. So,
A very safe player, I'll say that. High floor.
okay. Um, interesting. It definitely, like you said, hot take, but that's what we're here for, hot takes. Um, yeah, see, for me, my second guy is going to be really interesting because I don't like Humphrey, and I think a lot of people will have Humphrey here at this point. I don't. I have Garyon Conley. Um, again, another guy who I think is technically sound. Um, you said it earlier. He guy's a technician. Um, I think again, you look at his athletic ability as far as his length, especially with bigger receivers in the NFL. Um, he's gonna be able to keep up with those guys. You want to put him on that, and then at the same time, he's got pretty good. I think him and Lattimore, in my opinion, have the two best ball skills out of any corners in this draft. And I think that shows up on tape, and that shows up in their game and stuff like that. But I think the problem with this draft is, you got a guy like Sidney Jones that goes down. Now he's out of the conversation, in all honesty, just because of not because of where I think he'll go in the NFL, just because of what's going on right now. Um, yeah, it's tough, but I'm gonna go with Conley just because he's a technician and his ball skills, along with his length and his body, will definitely help him um, against the more physical, bigger receivers in the NFL. Which a lot of times that's what will happen in the NFL. You get bigger guys and you put them on a rookie, and you just hope you kind of physically abuse them. But I don't think Conley will let that happen. So I like him a lot.
Yeah, then after my first two corners, these next three are very close. I've actually flipped them a lot, but currently Garen Conley's my third corner and the first of the tier two guys, like you said. He's versatile. He plays the slot and the outside, which is great in this day and age. Great deep speed, some of the best deep speed I saw. Fluid hips. Only thing I saw was he got beat on a lot of comeback routes and changed the direction, but that's the really only negative I saw, which concerned me.
Right.
High end number two corner, similar to that. I'm not sure if he can be a premier number one, but I think he's definitely a safe player. Like the next corners we'll talk about, definitely have risk involved.
Interesting. Yeah. My next three guys, like you said, are very, very close. I put Kevin King here based off of his size. I think that's also a negative for him, based off he's pretty thin. He's not. I don't know how physically he could hold up. But again, talk about length in the arms. Press guy. His tackling's a little iffy at times as well. Which out of a bigger corner, I think a lot of people automatically assume, okay, he's a big guy, so he could tackle. But sometimes he struggles with tackling. But again, he's just a really good press man corner. He's kind of a higher riser, I think, now in this draft as it's getting closer to draft, and I think that's what the draft's all about. Once guys kind of come up in the in the process, and that whoever kind of hot late, whoever stock is hot late, kind of sometimes gets the edge. But he's played a little of everything. Played a little safety, little corner. Pretty good hips for a bigger guy too, which is you watch some guys like Rasul Douglas at West Virginia. He struggles at 6'3". And sometimes these guys can be compared to linebackers just because of how big they are, and they struggle with movement. So he's pretty fluid in that sense. And the only thing that worries me is his frame, his build. His length is good, but and his tackling can be a little iffy at times. But I like Kevin King. I think he'll sneak in the bottom end of the first round there.
Yeah, absolute freak athlete. I know Seattle will love that.
Yep.
And then my number four corner, some people have been high on him, such as Jeremiah. He's marked him to 19th. But some people have him in the second or third round. I'm a fan. Is Chidobe Awuzie, Colorado corner.
Mm-hmm.
Not the biggest guy, but I love his physicality. Press man corner. Plays a slot and outside, similar to Conley. But awesome slot blitzer. I saw him sack the quarterback, get quarterback hits, cause interceptions. Just I love that aspect of him, and he's similar like a Mika Hyde type player. I just think he'll be very feisty, solid in man coverage, and just a definitely all around player to have.
Yeah, I like him in the slot. He reminds me a little bit of Chris Harris, like his toughness.
Oh, definitely.
Uh, so I like him. I like watching him on film. I like his quick twitch, his read and react. He could diagnose a play pretty quickly. I like that. Tough dude. His size, like you said, he lacks in the size category, but he really is physical guy, really good. Um, like instincts, like I said. Um, you know, he's gonna he's gonna be a little bit more weak. No, I'm just see if I can put this. His problem with I think is tackling, and I don't think it's because he's a bad tackler. I just think he's not going to be able to. Sometimes maybe he gets there too quick because of his anticipation. Sometimes I think that
Over
um,
pursuit, yeah.
he's just not. It's really hard to explain, I think, unless if you play football, you'd understand kind of what I'm saying. But once he gets there, I think he has a hard time finishing, is what I'm trying to say. So he'll be the kind of guy that he'll make a tackle, but it'll be like when the whistle blows kind of thing. And like he doesn't get the guy down. You know what I mean? He's that kind of
I
player.
saw that. I
So
definitely see that.
so that's where I see with him for sure. So anyway, after that long explanation of why Awuzie isn't the greatest tackler in the world, yeah, but he's my number three as well. I really like his game, and be in Colorado in 2 weeks. Watch their spring game, so maybe he'll be there.
Beautiful.
I doubt it. It's like the day. It's like a couple weeks before the draft.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be there. He'll be planning to buy a house.
Yeah.
All right, who's your next corner?
Am I up for number? He's my corner. He's my number four.
Oh, sweet. No, we're on the
Yes.
same page. Beautiful.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
my number four. He's in the same tier too, mostly because of upside. But these are where the corners, when you watch them, you'll start seeing like them get toasted. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right. Yep.
The
Absolutely.
top guys, you never saw Conley get beat deep or any
Right.
of that.
No.
Chris White out of LSU. This guy, he's interesting because he's tall, but he was manned up in the slot a
Slot
lot.
a
And
lot.
one thing I
Yeah.
like about him, his arms are really long. Like, damn. And
Yeah.
quick
He is
back pedal,
lengthy.
change of direction. And the negatives though, it sucks at corner. He's not very fluid, and he's inconsistent. Chad Kelly lit him up, and he's timid in the run, but he definitely, when you watch him, you see like he could be a high upside corner with the length, height, and when he plays well, it's awesome technique. It just he's an inconsistent corner, but the upside, he's definitely worth a late first. I'm not sure if he should go in the top 15 that I've seen.
Okay. Interesting. My fifth corner, I don't really like Tre'Davious White. But my fifth corner is Fabian Moreau from UCLA, another kind of like late riser in the draft process. He's had some medical history, so I think that could hurt him and definitely cement him in the second round, maybe mid-second round at that. But he's a guy that reminds me a lot of Eli Apple. When you put the tape on with him, again, a lot of these guys, besides Awuzie, are bigger guys, lengthy guys. That's what Moreau has, but I see a little bit of grabbing and tugging, which can be a problem. His foot speed is pretty good too, which I like. Um, and I think he's just a solid guy. But he reminds me a lot of Eli Apple in size and just ability as a prospect. I think Eli Apple was a little quicker and faster. Um, but at times I think he could struggle when he's in off coverage, and I think that may hurt him. And again, his medicals, but he's a guy I watched at the East West Shrine game and the Senior Bowl. He got a little grabby, but he stays right on top of the receiver, reacts pretty quickly, and he's a pretty good tackler. So I like Fabian Moreau, 206 pounds, 6 foot. That's pretty decent. So. UCLA's got some pretty good defensive talent. And I think they keep putting it out with Tack McKinley and Baby Morrell this year.
Interesting, interesting. You don't like White? I don't like Monroe. Where do
There
you
you
personally have White? Do you have him in your top 10?
go. He is in my top 10. Yeah.
Yeah, Monroe just slides in there, so we'll get to him. But
Okay.
at number 6, uh, Kevin King, as you mentioned previously, mostly for the fact he put up absolutely freak combine numbers, historic at 6'3". Press corner, he'll be on the outside. I think he's a great fit for the cover 3 schemes. Uh, I don't I don't trust his change of direction ability. I could see him definitely getting beat on certain routes, but at this point, at cornerback 6, he has elite upside. So you got to go get him.
Uh, that's interesting. My guy who I kind of want to stay away from just because I think he is. What do I call him? Who's the guy? Who's the guy in the Jets from the Jets who they drafted from Alabama?
D
D
Milner.
Milner. Yes, D Milner. So he's D Milner 2.0, I think. Um, really good hips, long striding, big guy, frame, length, whatever you want to call it. But again, I think he has a really bad problem with once he gets kind of like beat, even if he's still with the guy in a way, when he has to turn his back, he's a he's a rough player. Um, and I think he just everything about him just like screams D Milner. Like he's got injury problems. Um, he's just like that. I don't know. He looks just like him, honestly. And I don't really not a big fan of his game, but I think the positives are worth a shot, especially again, like you said, at CB6. Like, I mean, the talent's there.
Definitely.
So interesting.
Cornerback 7. I think at this point, I would actually draft injured Sidney Jones. We're talking like late second. I would take him and just wait on him. I love his talent over these other guys, but subscribe with him. So my 7th corner outside of him is Quincy Wilson, Florida corner. I know Matt Miller absolutely loves this guy, has him like number 1 corner. I don't see that. He's a tall press physical corner, but he has average speed and fluidity. So he's like he'll need the right scheme. Like if you have an elite corner on the side and you have like a safety to help out a lot of receiving corps, but yeah, he's a tall press corner, but I just don't see the speed and fluidity to be like he's like Lattimore without the athleticism.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing with this draft class because like again, I'll bring up a guy like next like Tre'Davious White, and like you said, all these corners for the most part are pretty big guys who honestly I think they can flip their hips really well. Tre'Davious White does a really good job at that. Um, I think his back pedals are pretty smooth. Again, the only thing with him, like you said, is plays in the slot. Primarily in the slot. And I think if you're drafting a guy in the first round, second round, I don't know if you're going to be drafting a slot corner. And again, he's the kind of guy like a Wouzier, which I saw he kind of struggled with his finishing with tackling. So I think because of his length and he kind of like would you say he's kind of like lanky? I'd say he's got those long arms, kind of.
Yeah, definitely a long arm, lanky, thin corner.
Right, and I think that may be one of his reasons for that. His instincts are okay, um, but I don't think they're like a Wouzier, like who I have 2 spots above him. But again, he's obviously played pretty well, and can really he's played against high level competition. So I do like Tre'Davious White just a little bit lower than a couple other guys.
Solid. And then my 7th corner, guy who was probably top 5, top 10 pick in August, tumbled to the 3rd round is Tease Tabor. And when I did these rankings, I thought I was low on him at cornerback 7, but now that looks like right where it is. Finesse off man corner. He wasn't impressed much. He was off. Natural change of direction. He had pretty good instincts. He'd rely on his athleticism, but he's timid versus the run. And he's not going to get in a receiver's face. But if you're a team that runs off man coverage, I think he could definitely help a team. And I like him in the 3rd round at this point. It's a shame he's run so bad at the combine and pro day and all this.
Yeah, I don't. the way he runs, man, I got to stay away from. I think in the top 10. Um, I never was a really big fan of him and Quincy Wilson. I, I don't know. I just watched their film and I didn't really like any of it. That face right there probably should have just told you all of it. Um, I wasn't really sold on him just because I don't know. He's just like he's very I don't know. He's just
He doesn't do it
I'd
for you.
rather have Quincy Wilson any day of the week. Quincy Wilson to me is more of a man guy, and I think look at like I compare um, Tease Tabor to Vernon Hargreaves just with less like tenacity. I just don't see it in his game. He's quick and stuff like that, but I don't know. I don't like him. Anyway, I'll get back to my guys. 7. Um, I'm gonna go with Jordan Lewis from Michigan. I actually really like him. Uh, you don't like him?
He's just so small. That's the thing. But
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
go.
No, he is small, and that's the thing. When I before the season started, I didn't really know much about Jordan Lewis. See, like I think for myself, compared to most like guys who scout the draft, analyze the draft, I don't really scout them like years in advance. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like I don't know who's in the 2019 draft class. Like I know a couple guys in 18. I'm not like doing that. So when I first watched a couple of Michigan games, I started really liking Jordan Lewis. Um, I mean, of course, Peppers is the guy over there, and Taco Charlton and Chris Wormley gets some praise. But I think Jordan Lewis, again, talk about his size. Yeah, he definitely lacks his size, but he's a really, really quick player who I think has pretty good hips. And I think he's just really solid. Um, I think his speed is there. Um, and again, I think he has off the field problems, which could hurt him. But I think he had like a domestic abuse case. Um, and we'll see if that comes back to haunt him, or he'll just be like miraculously, he'll be fine. He'll be like, no, charges are dropped, you're good. But I really do like him. I think he's physical. I think, from what I saw out of him, I thought he had pretty good ball skills. But yeah, his size is pretty brutal. I think what does he check in at 5'2"? Honestly, I don't even
Wow. 5'9". 5'2".
5'9". I don't think so.
Really?
I
And
really
then
don't.
and then that like my point I was gonna say is I do like his film, but just teams like the Packers openly will not draft a corner if they're under 5'11".
Well,
Like some teams are like very strict.
I'm gonna look this up. I mean, he may be 5'9". I just feel like he's 5'2". Let's see, Jordan Lewis.
Oh boy.
Let's see what we got. What?
5'2". It's beautiful.
What? Jordan Lewis?
5'2".
No.
That's
He's
almost
5'10". Just kidding. He looks like he's 5'2". Honest to God.
he's not 5.
No, 5'2" is like a woman. Um, he's not. He is not that. All right. So anyway, I digress from that. All right, go ahead. So you're CB8.
My CB8, late riser. I watched him a couple games and I really like his game. I might even move him up. Is Killer Witherspoon, cornerback, Colorado. Just a really tall, tall corner, similar to other guys, but physical. In there, when the ball's thrown at him, he knows what he's doing. Deflecting away. He's not the best athlete, change of direction, any of that, but he's moving up there for me as a potential like number 2 tall outside corner you could place on these big physical receivers, have a safety above him. I'm a fan of his game.
Yeah, I like him too. I just started watching some of his stuff as well, and I'm liking what I'm seeing out of him. Actually, when I went to the Fordham's Pro Day, the Jets had a scout there from CU. He's a Colorado guy, and he's friends with a couple guys on the team. We were talking about Witherspoon, and he said he's talk about his game a little bit, and was able to watch him, and I did like what I saw from him as well. A guy here for me at 8, just like you had him a couple picks ago, Sidney Jones. I think again the talent is there. It's too much. It's too much at this point to not take him. If everything checks out, he can be a big support to like I said, a team that doesn't need him right away. And it's a shame that he did get hurt, like we talked about. But um, he really is a pretty good corner who did a really good job. Pretty good tackler. Um, Another guy who's really good instinctively. Again, for a bigger guy, he can backpedal, quick feet, um, and again, flip his hips and really stay on top of a guy. So I don't think people are going to wear him down. Um, I did watched an interview, excuse me, of him, where he talks about all the film work he puts in and really likes to study the game. So that's important too. And he's able to, read and react a little quicker come game day. So he doesn't get beat as much in that sense. So I love Sidney Jones, honestly. And again, it's really unfortunate what happened with him.
Yeah, can still get him in the third. It's great. Get a tier one corner that late. Just curious to see what team jumps on that.
Yep.
But at this point in the draft, I'd call these the tier four corners. These are high upside players that like in week one just because they're very top players.
Right.
I have tied for ninth because to me they're like similar players. I know you disagree, but Fabian Moreau and Adoree Jackson tied for ninth. Just two elite athletes, similar size, man corners. They're aggressive players. They're grabby at times, and they get beat a decent amount. I'm not too high on either of these players, but you know, with coaching, they could become very good. I'm just not completely sold on either player per se, but both awesome athletes
Okay.
from the Pac-12. There you go.
There we go. My guy here at number 9 is Tre'Davious White. Like you said, I think my biggest thing with him is I just don't like his. I don't know if it's his inability to play outside or just his exclusivity that he played on the inside. Um, because I think teams are going to ask him to go outside. And then with that sense, I mean, yeah, he's long. We talked about it. A lot of these corners are. But if he's the kind of guy that he just, to me, he just didn't, I don't know, he didn't show much on film where I'm like, okay, wow, like he's a top 3 corner. He looked average, looked very like he's looking all over the place for what comes next, and he doesn't really find it. I think he gets stuck in that, and I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of him. I have him at 9. I don't know. I know you like him, but again, that's where we differ with Moreau and with him there.
And definitely, you're hoping the Eagles get him then.
Yeah, I am hoping. Yeah, exactly. Good point. Yes, I know you're gonna like my guy for number 10 though. I know you'll like that.
Sweet. And then my number 10, this is one of my least favorite prospects in the draft. Just Marlon Humphrey. Where do I start? The positives, he's an imposing physical corner at the line of scrimmage, but limited schematically. Here's the deal. I just think if the majority of the receivers in the league are going to toast this guy, he gets beat at the line of scrimmage way too often. He doesn't have the quicks for the NFL. I think the best hope for him is like a Brandon Browner role where you just place him and hope he presses the hell out of the guy. I'm not sold on his quicks. I just think he got beat a lot for me, and I don't see the hype on him.
Okay. All right. Hey, go get him. So, all right. So you don't like the hype on him,
Nope.
but what about a guy that I'm going to put at 10, who I know you like, because he's got the guts. He's all in. Cordrea Tankersley, number 10 from Clemson. What do you think about it?
Like this guy a lot.
Okay.
Good amount.
What's that?
I like him a decent amount, especially.
Yeah, I think he's super physical. Again, I think that can hurt him at times because he's very grabby. He seems maybe sometimes a little too out of control with it. I think that could be his biggest flaw. But a lot of times, guys who are aggressive, they need to learn how to kind of maintain that, put the blinders on, and figure out when they have to do it, when they can't. I think he's got really good ball skills too. So that's a guy that you coach him up. You say, listen, you got to pump the brakes on the physicality where you're going to get some penalties, and trust your ball skills and that press ability, especially if you put him in a press system. He'll be great. But again, I think sometimes his His transitions can be bad, which can hurt him. He seemed to me like a choppy kind of player,
Yeah, not
where
smooth.
not smooth, right? Choppy in his, in his breaks, in his transition when he flips his hips. And again, that could be something that can be corrected with coaching. But I think for him, I like him at 10, solid player, winning program, big time football. Kind of like a dog, I like to say. Kind of reminds me of the way his attitude, like Mackenzie Alexander, who came out of Clemson last year. Kind of just one of those players who a little cocky, but I like it.
Yeah, he was actually my one of my dark horse corners I was going to mention. I just like you said, I love his attitude. He's over aggressive, but that that attitude will definitely get him somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. All
So
right.
then, for corners outside the top 10, anyone you're looking at? You want me to go
Yeah, I
first?
think for me, I really like the kid from Miami, Corn Elder.
Same.
Small guy, but he's really, really quick twitch. I like that. His read and react is really good. Uh, Good tackler. Size is obviously an issue with him. Um, but I don't know if the power will hurt him due to his quick twitch ability off the line to react. Just think he can come in and he'll get you, a couple rotational corner plays in a game, and if a guy goes down, he has to step in and play. I think he can.
Definitely. He was number two on my dark horses. Great minds think alike.
Wow.
Another guy I definitely like, and he's pretty late down there, is the guy that plays across your boy Jordan Lewis, Stribling.
Okay.
He doesn't have the typical NFL athleticism. That's why you can get him in the fifth or sixth round.
Yep.
But for a tall guy, I really liked his technique. Knew what he was doing. Competitive in coverage. I'm a fan of his game. I think he'll be a player on a roster for years to come. Like you said, for similar to Elder, like a backup player. Player, if he has to come in, you're not screwed. You're not getting toasted with like every NFL fan has backup corners where they come in the game. You had that guy last year, Trevin Wade, and you're like just screaming at the TV.
Please.
Like Stribling are important where like solid backups don't have the athleticism, but know what they're doing will be competitive.
Okay, interesting. Another guy for me, I really I watched a lot of film on, got better as the draft process went on, is Russell Douglas from West Virginia. Brought him up a little bit before. Big corner. I believe he checks in at he's like 6'2", 6'3". He's pretty lanky. He's big, though. He's very muscular up top, big up top, small on the bottom. Think it kind of hurts him in that aspect. He's pretty physical. He's a beast with ball skills. I don't think anyone's really taking that away from him. Could definitely see him moving down into strong safety just because, or excuse me, any safety spot. I hate to use the free safety, strong safety, because a lot of teams don't do that anymore. But with his ball skills, his size, and his ability to be able to backpedal where he's not so much like a linebacker, but he could still get it done. I really like him and his versatility that he could bring to a club. Be a fourth corner or again be like a safety in the league. I like his game a lot. Watched him quite a bit. He's a Nassau County Community College transfer, which is right by where I live in Long Island. So heard a lot about him all the time, but now he's coming out from West Virginia. So interesting prospect. I like him a lot. I like his measurables.
Another big ass corner.
Yeah.
What a draft. And then one last guy is Brandon Wilson. He's the corner across Howard Wilson. One thing I just thought was interesting is pro day. He ran like a 4.3. He scored touchdowns at Houston as a running back, kick returner, punt returner, and on defense. And coaches Belichick love 4-down players.
Right.
Versatile. All slot only. He only played the slot there. Maybe you get a good special teams guy in the seventh round. Could back up running back like every spot. Special teams gunner. Just like those type of players.
Okay. Interesting. I got a kid here. Another guy to look out for based off his combine time of the 40. Believe he ran a 4.3 or let me see. I'm gonna look it up. You're not sorry, 4.28. So sub 4.3. Jalen Myrick from Minnesota. Yeah. So this kid's got really good feet. Really, really fast. Sometimes he's too fast, gets to the receiver a little bit early. But I like his feet. I like his ability to compete, and his speed is really, really good. So he could stay with really anybody. Today's NFL is all about obviously size and speed. He lacks one, has the other. I think he'd be able to be really good in the slot, sticking with guys like John Ross, Deshaun Jackson, Sterling Shepard, uh, Julian Edelman. He's got the speed, he's got the quicks. But again, his size, he could get bullied a little bit, and that's why he's just obviously a dark horse guy for me.
Definitely. It's interesting. CBS has him like 75th overall, but everywhere else I look, I can't really find him. So that's curious. But yeah, definitely
Interesting. Any guys that you think could be taken, or excuse me, that will be taken higher that shouldn't be? Because
definitely my main people I'd say for that is Fabian Monroe, just the project. Humphrey's number one, as I said. He's one of my busts of this draft class. I would take Lattimore at his spot. I would take White at his spot. Conley's a great pick. Tease Tabor and Wilson are both wildcards.
I think I'm with you on that, because I think they're those guys that can just. It's amazing too, because I talked about this when I was on a guest on another podcast. The defensive talent that came out of Florida. Like, let's think about that for a second. You got last year you had the safety Keanu Neal. This year you have Marcus May.
Linebacker for the Falcons, right? Deion Jones.
Deion Jones went to LSU.
Oh, my bad.
It's okay. But they have Jared Davis, Alex Anzalone coming out this year. They have Caleb Brantley. They have Brian Cox coming out this year. They had Dante Fowler a couple years ago.
Marcus May.
Marcus May, I said, with Keanu Neal was back there. Vernon Hargraves. Trying to think of them. The corners have been. I think, like Vernon Hargraves was, he was a guy who, like before high school, like before college, coming out of high school, he was, watch this guy, he's a beast. Yes, and the same thing happened with Tease Tabor, I believe. So, they're like, watch, he's the guy across from Vernon Hargraves, and he's got a weird name. So everyone's like, take a look at him. But everyone else was more impressed by Quincy Wilson, I feel. And I think Quincy Wilson gets overlooked a lot. I do think he's been hyped up as well, but I think he could still pan out a little bit better than Tease Tabor. So.
And then just as a thing, like the thing about the cornerback position is very like risky. 2014 draft, you're looking at Justin Gilbert was the number one corner taken. Then Kyle Fuller.
Yeah.
Darqueze denied. Jason Verrett is a great corner. Roby's done solid corners. 3 of them were busts. And that position scares me in the first round. So you definitely want to make sure like you're getting a guy who can play. Like Kevin King is definitely a dicey pick.
It's funny too, because I was about to say something and then I kind of thought about it before I said it. I almost said that cornerback has changed into the running back position as far as first round. So you stay away from running backs in the first round, according to the NFL scouts, because the talent hasn't developed. But, the need for corners are so large based off of, 5 wide, 4 wide. You don't want to expose a linebacker. Some safeties can't cover. You put them in the box now. They're not going to be able to, stay with those guys. So it's interesting that, the cornerback position is at such a need. There's so many times where, I watch the Giants and their 4th corner needs to come in the game or needs to come in for a couple games or a couple plays or whatever it comes down to. That can get exposed by teams. Smart offensive coordinators can take advantage of that. I don't know. I think it's a pretty undervalued position. And since the depth is there in this draft, I think this is more of a class where you not so much get the top end talent, but since the depth's there, you're going to get more quality depth lower to give you depth on your team further on. So curious your take on that.
100%. 100%. Cornerback depth matters so much in this league. I mean, not to be cliche, but Kyle Arrington was getting toasted in the Super Bowl. We had to put in an undrafted Malcolm Butler. He stepped up, got passes defended before the pick. You need depth every year. We've lost AFC titles because people like Marquise Cole have to come in. They get roasted by Anquan Bolden. Depth is huge. And I in this draft, like certain teams like the Eagles, they might have to draft 3 corners. Like, it's crazy.
Right. I agree. So there's some breaking news on the show. Andy does not know about this, but we have a University of Maine product that is where the show is a big fan of him, and I think he's now a big fan of the show. He just gave the Rough Draft podcast a follow on Twitter and myself, but I think he might be coming on the show soon, maybe next week. Maybe we'll get an interview in, maybe this week if we can, which is really cool. And then there's rumblings, there's rumors circulating in the air. So we have this draft season hype that there's a possibility that we can get Oklahoma defensive tackle Charles Walker on the program. So that'd be huge for the program as well. So listen, whatever we could get would be great. Of course, Charles Walker would be something that I don't think anyone would have thought of, but kind of been reaching out to some people. And Pat Richard is another guy. Is it Richard, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. I just saw that. He's listening. Just he had his pro day up there, ran a 1.48, 10-yard split. You should watch his tape. He's like defensive tackle. I definitely think he's going to get picked 4th, 5th round. I just think teams are going to see that explosion and take a gamble on him. He's a great late round pick, and I'd love to have him on the show.
Awesome. So hopefully we could get Pat on. Pat, if you're listening, brother, please come on, and we'll try to get your name out there. So that'd be great if you could come on and support the show, and we can support him, and be good. So anyway, Andy, any last words? Anything else you want to chime in?
3 weeks till the draft. It's getting interesting. We'll see what happens, and hopefully we get. This has been great getting Matthias McKinnon on the show, Rick Saratella. Yeah. I'm loving the guests. Year 1's been going great. We have big plans for year 2, and hopefully we can wrap this year up with some great guests, great takes. Maybe a mock draft 3.0, whatever works.
Absolutely. That look for that coming. Let's do one for the listeners next week.
Fantastic.
All right. So for Andy Prowse, I am Matt Giannatino, and that is a wrap. Week number 6, episode number 6. Keep it locked here. Rough Draft Podcast, all news, notes, and hot takes from around the NFL draft process. So again, Matt Giannatino for Andy Prowse, signing off. Have a good week, everyone.
Have a great week. Peace.